Hey guys! I'm so excited about my new setup. What do we think? I mean, if you follow me on any other social media platform, you would know this space on my second floor has just been carrying dust because I didn't know what to do with it. I finally got the idea to decorate it into a book nook. So I put a carpet and a couch and everything, and I've literally been spending my whole day here in my house now. Like, I'm not going down. It is a hassle to get down, let me tell you. Anyways, today I wanted to do a special episode, a special English episode for all of you international viewers. I know I've been reading your guys' comments. I've been reading your DMs. I know there's a lot of people who want English subtitles for my other YouTube videos, like my vlogs and such. The thing is, the way I would love to do everything, okay? The way I would love to put like 10 different subtitles in my video so I could get more views out of them and more people can watch me and I can get more famous. But there's only so much I could do with one body and 10 fingers. And I know we live in a world where AI can do everything for us. But the thing is, I take my subtitles very seriously. I do not want AI touching my videos whatsoever when it comes to subtitles, because I do think they are the bread and butter of my videos. No robot can emulate my wit and my humor when it comes to subtitles. So the only thing that would please me enough to put in subtitles would be if I had the time to do everything with my own hands, but I sadly don't. So instead, I've just decided to do an English episode once in a while like this. So for the month of January and February, I've been doing so much reading. I think it all started with my Australia trip, which I will get into in a second. But because I had so much time on my hands, I did so much reading, whether it's books, Substacks. I've also been listening to a lot of very interesting like YouTube videos. And overall, I've just been accumulating a lot of knowledge, I feel like, and I don't have anywhere to share it with. So I wanted to make this video to kind of share my ideas and thoughts of this month and hopefully get some feedback from you guys. And I want to hear your thoughts and we could start a little conversation in the comment section. But speaking of my Australia trip, I wanted to do a little summary of my trip for those of you who missed out on my Sydney vlog. I don't think I've ever had bad luck with weather when it comes to traveling before this trip. The whole reason I chose Sydney to stay for 3 weeks right in the beginning of 2026 was because of the weather. Like, I remember doing my exchange program there for 6 months, and like the weather really changes you into another person, you know? The sun just blazing every single day, the bright blue sky, no misemonji in sight. And I swear it rained like 40-50% of the time I was in Sydney. So I have to say I was bored a lot of the time, but that kind of led me to my reading streak. And just because I had nothing to do, I would just, go to a cafe and read books. And I'm not complaining, because that really like put a kickstart on my journey this month to read and listen to a lot of things. Also, I want to mention something that I never noticed while I was an exchange student there, but going there alone this time as literally a foreign traveler, I did a lot of people watching. Okay, I would like sit in random cafes or sit in the middle of the park and just people watch, because again, I had nothing else to do. And something I witnessed that I didn't before, I feel like friend groups or just groups of people that hang out together aren't that diverse. I would just see like white people hang out with white people, black people with black, Asians with Asians. And then while I was in Sydney, I came upon this TikTok of a white girl actually, who had Russian heritage, who lives in Sydney. And she was saying how, as someone who lives there with that certain culture, she always felt like racism is prevalent in Sydney.
Unless you are a person of colour, so you obviously then have a greater chance of understanding that it is a colony, it's a colonised country. But white people don't really have a conception of that. They just think of Australia as sunny beaches, nice weather.
Again, I don't want to like say it myself, because first of all, I don't want to get cancelled. Second of all, I've never lived there, so I have no idea. But she also went on to say like it's a very white prevalent and white-centered society. And even with brand events that I see going on in Australia, because that's kind of like my main point of interest as an influencer, the influencers that get invited to these events in Sydney are like pretty much always the same. There's always regulars, and they're all pretty skinny white girls. Okay, hi, it's me from the future. I wanted to butt in and kind of clarify myself because it seems like I'm just trying to bash Australia, which I'm not. I've had the most wonderful, kind interactions with Australian people. But that being said, the reason I mentioned this was because it was just a whole new perspective of a country that I never thought before in a way that I felt very ashamed of not knowing in the past. I think there's a difference between explicit racism versus innate racism that's kind of weaved into the culture. And I feel like I've only seen Australia from the former viewpoint. So the reason I touched on this subject was because I wanted to hear your, like, the people who actually live there's opinions, because there could be so many things I'm missing on my aspect, and I just want to broaden my perspective. And also, it never hurts to learn a country's cultural background instead of just absent-mindedly being like, oh, this place is perfect, the perfect beaches, the sun, the tanning, everything, you know? Like the girl said in her TikTok, there's so much more to a country than that. So let's all just be conscious, smart individuals. So, if you have lived in Sydney, if you were born and raised in Sydney, I want to hear your opinions on this. I'm really interested because, like I said, it's something that I just recently kind of acknowledged for the first time. Anyways, let's get into the actual point of this video. Things I've been reading this month. First of all, I'm going to start with I didn't bring it with me. The one book that I finished this month. 여러분 복층 살지 마세요. So the one book I finished this month is called The Book Thief by Marcus Iuzak. I'm sorry. I did buy this while I was in Sydney. It was on clearance at Big W. How I choose what to read. Most of the time, I'll just go on Book Talk on TikTok and find some recommendations. But when it comes to offline book shopping and I have to choose on the spot, I'll just read the back of the cover and see if it intrigues me. And also, something about the font of the book and how spacious the words are also very important. If it's too look, if the font is like at 4 and there's like 300 pages, I'm not gonna fucking read it. And this seemed like a perfectly apt read, so I got it. Such a good book. Such a good book. I'm sorry if that like hurt your ears. Such a good book. The story is told from the point of view of a 저승사자 during Nazi Germany. I am gonna have to search what that is in English. The Death Angel. I don't know if that's accurate. Basically think of Lee Dong-wook in 도깨비. That's the image honestly I thought of the whole time reading this book. As like, oh, Lee Dong-wook is like reading a story to me. So it's from the point of view of a 저승사자, and he follows around a single little girl called Liesel, who actually lost her mother and father due to their communist tendencies, and then also loses her little brother to death. So she gets adopted to a little family in Germany, which in the end was very heavily affected by Nazi Germany and the war. Honestly, my favorite part was that it was written from the point of view of a death angel. Like, that is so unheard of. And that's what made it such an interesting read from start to finish. But just the little remarks in between the pages that the death angel makes is very witty and funny. Overall, not a very fun book. It's a very sad book, obviously. Very much reminded me of the movie The Boy in Striped Pajamas, I think it's called. Very similar in that it follows a child's timeline during the Nazi Germany. I feel like enacting such a tragedy from the lens of a child will just always be interesting because just of the stark difference between the pure, innocent viewpoint of a child and the cold, dark reality of the tragedy. It just makes you imagine, like, literally, how would you have been if you were a child during these, not even Nazi Germany, but, you know, anywhere in historic times that was such a chaos, how and what children would have been feeling or even understanding. Because even with Liesel in the book, she like does not know what the hell is going on for the first few chapters. I guess the reason we feel entertained reading this is because we feel a sense of liberation. It would have been better off if we were a child during those times, not an adult where we know, you know, all the dark secrets of what's going on. We would have rather just been an innocent child who doesn't even know what Nazi means, what communist means, what Hitler means. And I guess that sparks some kind of like dopamine in us. I don't know, those are my thoughts. But yeah, you really get attached to this Liesel character and the characters that she gets attached to. So it's like a little growing tree. It feels like you've become Liesel and you want to help all these people that Lisa wants to help and want to befriend people Lisa wants to befriend. And the way I've become so attached to Liesel and this book is that ever since I finished this, I've been going down a rabbit hole on YouTube watching everything related to Hitler. Like, I've watched a full fucking 3-part documentary on Hitler. And then that led me to a whole algorithm of just historical figures and war crimes. And like, my algorithm is just devastating right now. Yeah, I'm listening to the most dark, devastating shit every morning as I sip my warm cup of tea. I don't know if it's good for my mental health, but I'm definitely learning a lot. I think it's so interesting how I had no business learning history when I was in high school. As much as I wanted to love it, there's just so much to fucking memorize. Like, okay, we're gonna have to go down the Korean education system if we want to talk about this, but y'all know our system is kind of fucked up. Anything we learn from middle and high school, there's nothing that's going in there and staying. It's literally all just for tests, all for numbers. So did I memorize every single thing written on that history textbook? Yes. But is there anything that stuck with me at the age of 28? No. So I've just never been a very bright girl when it comes to history, especially world history. But this book alone literally changed the trajectory of what I've been reading and watching in my free time. And I think that really speaks volumes. Studying is fun if there's not a test attached to it. And if you get attached to a certain little 14-year-old girl in a fiction book. So yeah, it was a long and very sad read, but definitely recommend it. Okay, moving on to some Substacks I read this month. Okay, let's do a fun, light topic this time. Okay, I read this Substack called To Be Loved is to Be Changed by Viv Chen. She has a whole Substack called The Molehill, which I've subscribed to. She has very interesting stories. I believe she's let me check her. She's a California-based fashion writer with works in Vogue, High Snobiety, Elle, Essence, and more. So she has a lot of insight in fashion, a lot more than I do. And her writing is very easy to read and very, very girly reads. I love it. So in this particular piece, she talks about a certain secondhand Sandy Liang sweater she got, which apparently had small little rags and holes in them, but she didn't mind because of her love for Sandy Liang. And then she wore it once in one of her TikToks. And for some reason, the whole world was raged by it. And people were saying this is rage bait and how there's possibly no way you could wear that outside. You're just like faking to us. When in reality, she literally wore that sweater everywhere. And it was one of her prized possessions. And this got me in a rage because I hate TikTok comments sometimes. Sometimes they're funny as fuck. And then that conversation posed her interest to the lack of nuance on short form media. And then she used the Prada's FW26 menswear stained cuffs as an example, which we'll get into. As someone who has kind of thrived, if I say so myself, off of short form media, I can't tell you the rage that I get when people don't understand nuance. People need to understand even YouTube is just a short part of someone's life. Even YouTube. You think YouTube is long? We're literally editing out so many things we don't want you to see in our daily lives, and yet we post it as if it's like our everyday lives and you're seeing 24 hours of it. No. Think about how nuanced a 1 minute, maybe even shorter, a 1 minute TikTok video is going to be. It's literally like a compressed maybe like 150 times of your life story into one video. And I think we could divide TikTok or any short form content viewers into two groups. The smart consumers who have something called a baddies and like know what they're watching and know what they're being served and know what's not being served and can view content objectively. And then there are the others who this is my impression of an owl. Who. And then there are what I like to call mommy viewers who think they're the mommy of everything. Okay? You wear a raggedy sweater on your TikTok and they think they can be your mom and suddenly scold you for wearing a raggedy sweater outside and saying, how dare you say that's one of your favorite sweaters when it's so not a social norm to be wearing a raggedy sweater outside. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares if I wear a fucking t-shirt with like holes in the boobs on them, like fucking Mean Girls? Okay, that would actually be not just that, but the point that she made was that this actually was one of her very prized possession sweaters, and she did wear it outside on the daily. Probably something the haters didn't want to hear. And she made such a great analogy to the Prada's menswear design, aka stained cuffs. So apparently I'm not into the whole runway show, like I'm not into the whole fashion scene as much as it might surprise some of you guys. I love fashion, but I don't know much about it. So I don't know anything that's been on the runway these days, but apparently Prada put out stained cuffs for their new FW line. And she goes on to say, it confuses the line between clean and new, dirty and used. There's something deeply human about trying to identify a mysterious substance and whether it imposes a threat to you. Very much relates to her point on we have to focus on nuance. Because who's to mock your stained cuffs when it's from Prada, babes? When it's the new season Prada. Like, I just bought it. It came like this, bitch. What you gonna say about it now? So yeah, I loved her analogy. I loved her story. It also made me have a profound love for Prada because of kind of making that statement. And I think that's what runways are all about, making a statement for yourself, not just about clothes, but like societally as well. Props to Prada for that, even though I probably won't be able to afford any of their shit in the near future. Okay, moving on to the second Substack. This one was called Mind the Swag Gap by Fashion Tingz. This is just a cute and funny read, but it made me think a lot. So if you don't know what a swag gap is, if I could just steal the words of the writer, it's a perceived distance between your personal style and your partner's. So basically think like the swag gap between Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber, or Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet, etc., etc. She goes on to say how the swag gap arose is that style is no longer just about taste, but it's about values, literacy, and interest. So it becomes a statement for self-awareness in today's society. So basically what you wear could be a direct reflection of who you are as a person. And so because your personal style and taste has become so important in who you are than ever before, I think a lot of people are starting to worry that your partner's doesn't really match up to the level of yours. And she also talks about how couples are now photographed a lot, especially through the rise of Instagram and social media. So people start to care more about online perception about the relationship. I didn't really relate to that part a lot, but I related so much to the part about how style and taste has become kind of a poster of what you believe in and your values. Let me get a little personal. So if you had asked me if I care about the swag gap, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago, so like right before I met my ex, I would say, yeah, the number one thing I looked at whenever people ask me like, oh, 이상형이 뭐예요? Like, what do you look for in a partner? What do you look for in a guy? I would always say my number one is their fashion sense and their taste. I guess you could say, yeah, I did mind the swag gap. It wasn't even about the looks or the height or, personality I do care about. But as for appearances, all I really cared about was how they dressed. I think there were two main reasons to that. Number one being it was just a natural physical attraction I had, like an animalistic 본능적 reaction to guys who dressed well. I was like, ugh, I need him. But the second reason really touched base with what the author had written about, that how you dress not only defines, your creativity and style, but also kind of your life's values. Values as in like how you view politics or subcultures or your everyday lifestyle, what your priorities are. And I think that really reflects off of what you wear. For example, I've never really been attracted to guys who would wear formal wear or like suits around in the streets, because that would automatically make me think, oh, he probably works at a 9 to 5, and as stereotypical as this might seem, but he might be a little closed off, he might be a little conservative, he probably doesn't have the same lifestyle as me, because obviously I don't work a 9 to 5. And I've always been more attracted to guys who, I don't want to sound vain, but guys with tattoos, maybe a little piercing here and there is cute. And then clothing wise, I've always liked guys who can incorporate vintage or like secondhand pieces into their style, because that's first of all what I like, and second of all, to me, that kind of signified that maybe he is more into the lifestyle that I'm into. Maybe he's a little more carefree, more open to adventure, maybe like open to new ideas. Maybe he has a more open schedule. Maybe he's a freelancer, because if you work a 9 to 5, you can't really, wear enigmatic clothing, etc., etc. You get the point. So this made me think, how about now? How about me now in March 2026 at the fresh age of 26? I always get that confused. I'm 28 in Korean age. After all the failed relationships I've had and failed situationships and everything in between, what do I think of the swag gap now? My thoughts have definitely changed a lot. I don't mind the swag gap anymore. I don't think as much. Actually, I do still would love a guy who dresses well, but it's definitely, I don't think it's my number one priority. If someone asks me what my 이상형 is now, I'm probably not going to state someone who dresses well, because after vigorous experience, I now know that wearing the same clothes as me does not mean they're going to have the same values as me. I know, shocking, right? But I had to learn the hard way, okay? I truly did. While sometimes it is really exciting to have a partner who matches your taste, like for example, going shopping together is so fucking fun. It's like, I sometimes even more fun than going shopping with a girlfriend, because like there's not a piece that you're gonna have to fight over. Whereas if you're with your girlfriends, you're kind of like always like, is she gonna buy that? But with a boyfriend who matches your taste, we're in completely different sections. It's always so much fun. And shopping for each other is fun. Obviously taking pictures together is fun. I mean, there's so much good that comes with it, but I think there is a danger to just completely screen out people that could possibly be my love interest, just because they don't fit my criteria for good fashion, you know? Because there could be a guy out there who literally has like 3 t-shirts and 1 pair of jeans, but could possibly be my soulmate, you know? Who aligns with my energy and my values and how I see life. And obviously that's what's most important in a relationship. I think I'm just maturing. I think I'm maturing. I think that's it. And this leads me to another thing I watched. I saw this clip on Reels. It was an interview with Rick Owens, and the interviewer asked,
if you fancy someone and don't like what they're wearing, does it kill your attraction to them?
And he said,
absolutely not. It almost perks it up. I see somebody with a very branded logoed bag, that would kill my attraction. I love that they don't care about fashion and that they have other priorities. That's hot.
That is hot. Like rethinking my values and rethinking my priorities when it comes to my attraction in the opposite sex. I think it's always been when they're like passionate about something. When I see a guy, or even when it comes to making friends, when I see people who are so incredibly passionate about something, that's when my interest really peaks. And now that I think about it, they could have a high interest in fashion. But regardless, I think having other priorities in life other than adorning yourself to look good is so attractive. And I think I'm really going to start to mind that when it comes to dating from now on. So I want to hear your guys' opinions. Do you guys mind the swag app? And did you guys also have like a revelation in your late 20s that maybe style doesn't fucking matter? But that doesn't go to say I'm gonna start meeting like raggedy men. I want someone who takes care of themselves, obviously. You know, personal hygiene, that's very important. I'm going off topic. 기빨린다. Guys, I've always thought about starting a podcast, but this shit is hard. I want to talk about one last topic before I go to eat lunch. This isn't something I read, but it was a YouTube video I watched called How Language Shapes the Way We Think. I forgot who it was by. And while I'm at it, I should subscribe to her. She had some very great video essays. Okay, she's a YouTuber called Anna Howard. This video helped me reveal a part of me that I never even knew existed. And it was so validating and so interesting. And I just really wanted to share with you guys. The points she made in the video is actually not directly related to my thoughts, but we'll get into it. So the main thesis of her video was, do linguistics play a part in creating our worldview? And like, can other languages out there help us express ourselves in a different, maybe more vibrant way than the English language? Because her first and only language was English. And she goes on to list these various examples, which I thought was very fun to share. So in the English language, you say, I am sad, right? 나는 슬프다. But in another language, I forget which one, I didn't write it in my notes. But in another language, it's expressed as, I am experiencing sadness. So instead of compartmentalizing us in a static, sad state, the latter example states that sadness is just something that goes through us and not something that defines us as a whole. She also mentioned how she's learning Spanish right now, and in Spanish, to experiment is the same word as to experience. So there's no separate words to explain those two things. It's just that an experiment is also an experience, which, if you think about it, is a very artful way to express that word. And she does a whole very descriptive deep dive on this topic. I definitely recommend to go and watch the full video. Another interesting and one of her focal points of the video was that these indigenous languages that are more conducive to help us connect with the world and our surroundings and even ourselves are all becoming more and more extinct and extinct and extinct. And the main reason for that is colonization. Because of course, people with power will do anything to demolish anything that gets in their way of keeping the status quo of capitalism. Isn't that such an interesting point of view? I have never seen linguistics that way. Like the power language has. Oh, she also had said, there was a quote she mentioned, the state has the power of violence, but language has the power to normalize it. That's so true. That's so true. And then even connecting that with the documentaries I've been watching about Hitler. Why is Hitler like my Roman Empire now? Bitch. Why can't it be anything else? Language, the way we speak, has so much power to it. That brings me to my point of what I realized about myself. Now, I don't need this anymore. First of all, it recently just came to me that now is the first time in my life where I actually have to go out and make my own friends. Because the moment I graduated, I moved to Jeju Island. If y'all remember that. It was like a week after I graduated college or something. I went straight to Jeju for my ex-boyfriend. And then after that, I had moved to Daegu for my ex-boyfriend. So for like 2 years after graduation, I've kind of just been revolving my life around past relationships. Guys, sorry, I just realized my mic was off. Shit. Anyways, what was I talking about? Okay. So there, I was talking about my personal experience. So there wasn't imminent desire or need for me to go out and look for friends because I had a partner. But now it's my first time being alone in a new city since graduating. As fun as that sounds, I'm very quickly realizing how hard it is to make friends. It's scary out there. How are y'all doing it? Okay, let me state it differently. It's easy to make friends because like go out, meet people, especially with the work I'm doing. I go to events, I meet people. I could DM people if I want to meet them. Like there's so many different ways to make friends, but it's hard to make deep connections. And for the past few months, I've definitely kind of been struggling with that and like seeing where I stand on how much I want to find friendship, but that's for another video. My point is we're talking about language here, okay? Linguistics. Through the past year or so, and the many people that I've come to meet and converse with, I've come to realize I'm so much more comfortable with people who can speak English than people who can't. It is so liberating to say that out loud. You have no idea. You might get a sense of what I'm trying to say if you've seen this video where I talked about why I was scared of English for a long time in my life. And to be honest, that idea kind of still holds. I think I went through quite an identity crisis without even knowing it. I thought these kind of identity crises were just reserved for actual kyopos who like don't know how to speak their mother language. But since I speak pretty fluently in both languages and I have always been, I never thought it would like lead to something as an identity crisis. But during my formative years in Korea, going to just a full Korean school, not an international school by the way, the only option to blend in was to diminish my English, which is why I use the term I'm scared of English, because I was scared to use it. I was scared to point out in any way, shape or form that I used to live there and I have pretty fluent English skills, because I was afraid people were gonna like point and stare and deem me as 재수 없는, because that's a very common thing in Korea. You can even see it displayed on media. Like when someone comes out on TV, they're saying all these Korean and all of a sudden this like English pronunciation comes out of nowhere. People in the comments go fucking crazy. They're like, 재수 없어. Why is she like saying her English words like that? Like she lived in America for like a year and why is she like rolling her tongue? And that kind of stigma in Korea really, I think, put a toll on me as a child. And like my past of living in America became a trauma to me. Like I didn't want anyone to find out and I'd always try to hide that fact. And on top of that, my surroundings and my environment all throughout from middle school to college was just all pure Korean people, which I'm not complaining about in any way. Korean people are so fun. Like even when I go abroad, I always hang out with Korean people. So I'm not like trying to bash Korean people in any way. So I swear if it wasn't for YouTube and my job, I would like know zero English at this point, because I would have forgotten it, because there's nowhere to speak it out into the world. And then fast forward to current times where I've become an adult and I have all these opportunities, especially I guess working in this field, to meet people who are fluent in English, or not even fluent in English, but have a background in living abroad like me, or have a background in knowing a lot about like Western culture, or have backgrounds of maybe being an exchange student, or just have a lot of interest in other cultures, like anything like that, I find it so much more unbelievably comfortable for me to speak to these people and have a conversation and like make a conversation flow with them. Something that I have been getting told a lot around my Korean friends as I get older is you don't really talk a lot. Like 되게 말수가 없다. Which is true to a certain degree. Like even with my friends who speak English, I don't really speak a lot. I'm not as chatty as one might think. But anyways, that phenomenon gets so much more severe when talking to people who are purely Korean. And I've only found out about this about myself now that I have a comparison, because before only speaking to Korean people, I didn't know that I was like holding myself back in expressing myself. But being able to compare myself with people who are more like bilateral tendencies, I could clearly see the way I express myself is so different and so much more vibrant. It's like I get to pick from 2 bowls of fruit instead of 1. So I have like 2 sets of languages I could choose to speak from. Like if I'm saying something in Korean and I kind of get stuck, I'm like, I can switch to English and be like and continue the conversation. Whereas like when I'm with my Korean friends, there's a lot of times like I really just refrain from talking because I don't know how to fully express myself, even though I'm so fluent in Korean. Do you know what I'm talking about? I need my bilateral or even like trilateral or anything queens out there to relate to me. And please tell me if you experience the same thing. The way I mentioned how it's so liberating to be able to say this out loud is because, again, because of that stigmatization in Korea, it's so hard for me to even say like I like speaking to people who have lived abroad before, because that is also kind of seen as rude and maybe even classist in Korea. Like, oh, you only like, you know, people from abroad, like you only like Western culture, you're so like 사대주의. Which like it's not that. It's not that serious. It's just easier for me to express myself. So yeah, that's something. So yeah, going back to the point of the YouTube video, I really do think linguistics play a part in how you see the world. And that also triggered my long lost desire to learn to speak Japanese, because I've always wanted to. And since learning this about myself, it really hit hard on me that learning a new language could really, really broaden your perspective. So I've been actively Duolingoing Japanese these days. There's a new fun fact about me. And yeah, I really want to make Japanese friends. And guys, there's so much more content that I wanted to touch on in this video, but I'm cooked. I'm so out of breath. I don't know how podcasters do it. 너무 힘들어요, 지금. That's it for today. Guys, tell me if you like the concept of this video style. And I'll talk to you later. 안녕.